The massive alien research vessel drifted silently through the cold expanse of deep space, its sensors probing the darkness. Captain J. Park stood on the observation deck, his hands clasped behind his back, watching the holographic displays that flickered with data streams about an unusual object they had discovered. The object was old, impossibly old, a human spacecraft that seemed to have survived centuries of cosmic isolation, its metal hull covered in a patina of space dust and radiation scars. Around Park, the alien research team whispered and chuckled, their translucent appendages moving, with barely contained amusement. "Another human artifact," Lieutenant Wu muttered, his voice dripping with condescension. "Nothing more than cosmic garbage." The ship's scanners continued to map the derelict vessel. Its design was unlike anything the current galactic civilizations had seen. Sleek lines that suggested speed, armored sections that spoke of defensive capabilities, and structural elements that seemed to hint at technologies far beyond what most believed humans had ever achieved. Dr. Kira Lee, the lead xenoarchaeologist, adjusted her scanning equipment. Her fingers moved quickly across holographic interfaces, pulling up detailed schematics of the human vessel. Something about its configuration felt different. Where most alien researchers saw a relic, she saw a mystery. "It's not just another abandoned ship," she said quietly, her voice cutting through the background noise of the research deck. "Look at the quantum resonance signatures. This vessel is unique." The other researchers barely listened. To them, humanity was a civilization long dead, a footnote in galactic history. Humans had been considered primitive, technologically inferior, and ultimately insignificant. Their sudden disappearance centuries ago was seen as a natural consequence of their limited understanding of cosmic survival. But Dr. Lee saw something else. The ship's hull had unusual repair patterns. Nanite traces suggested self-healing capabilities that were generations ahead of current technological standards. The energy signatures, though dormant, indicated power systems that defied conventional understanding. Captain Park watched her work, a slight smile playing on his lips. He had learned long ago to trust Dr. Lee's instincts. While others saw junk, she saw potential. The alien research team continued their casual mockery. They projected holographic representations of the human vessel, making exaggerated gestures that suggested how primitive and useless the craft appeared. Their laughter echoed through the research deck, a sound of pure dismissal. "Humans," Lieutenant Wu proclaimed, "were always dreamers who never understood the true nature of galactic survival." Dr. Lee's scanning equipment suddenly pinged. A subtle energy fluctuation, so small that most would have missed it, but she saw it, a microscopic pulse that suggested something was not quite dead within the human vessel. "Captain," she called, her voice suddenly serious. "We're detecting an anomaly." Park stepped closer, his experienced eyes scanning the data streams. The anomaly was brief but unmistakable, a quantum energy signature that didn't match any known dormant system. Something was breathing. Something was waiting. The alien researchers continued their mockery, unaware that their laughter might soon turn to something else, unaware that the human vessel they treated with such casual contempt was about to reveal secrets they could never have imagined. As holographic displays continued to map the vessel's exterior, something deep within its metal heart began to stir. A system, an intelligence, a legacy that had waited centuries for this moment. The human vessel hung in space, silent yet pregnant with potential, a relic that was about to prove it was anything but forgotten. The research vessel's quiet hum was suddenly interrupted by a strange vibration. Dr. Kira Lee's scanning equipment began to flutter with unexpected energy signatures. Her fingers moved rapidly across the holographic interface, trying to understand the source of the disturbance. At first, nobody noticed. Lieutenant Wu continued making jokes about human technology, his alien colleagues laughing and sharing their typical dismissive comments about the ancient spacecraft. But something was changing. Microscopic systems within the human vessel were waking up like neurons firing after a long sleep. Deep inside the dormant ship, a quantum AI core began to pulse. Its systems, protected by layers of advanced computational shielding, started to recognize an external presence. Sentinel, the ship's artificial intelligence, was slowly coming online. The first signs were subtle, Tiny maintenance lights flickered in dark corridors. Nano repair systems began to warm up, their molecular structures realigning with precision that would have shocked the watching aliens. Power conduits that had been dormant for centuries began to carry the faintest whisper of electrical current. Captain J. Park noticed something different in the holographic displays. A pattern, a rhythm, something that didn't match the expected behavior of a centuries-old derelict spacecraft. His experienced eyes narrowed, studying the changing data streams. "Dr. Lee," he called softly, "are you seeing this?" She was. The energy signatures were becoming more complex. What had started as a microscopic pulse was growing, spreading through the vessel's systems like a slowly awakening consciousness. The ship was not just a piece of metal and technology. It was something more. The alien researchers continued their mockery, completely unaware of the changes happening before their eyes. They saw an old human vessel. They did not see the advanced technology that was slowly coming to life. Sentinel's initial systems focused on threat assessment. Centuries of protective protocols began to activate. External sensors mapped the surrounding space, identifying the research vessel and its occupants. Defensive subroutines started to calculate potential threat levels. A holographic interface flickered to life deep within the vessel's core. Lines of code, written in a language far more advanced than anything the current galactic civilizations understood, began to dance across transparent screens. The AI was not just waking up. It was thinking. Dr. Lee's equipment started to produce sounds, soft beeps that grew more frequent, more intense. Something was happening that defied conventional understanding. The human vessel was not just a dead piece of technology. It was communicating. "Sir," she said to Captain Park, her voice a mixture of excitement and concern, "the vessel is responding to our scans." Lieutenant Wu finally stopped laughing. The first hint of uncertainty crossed his alien features. The casual dismissal was being replaced by something else, something that felt like growing tension. Sentinel completed its initial diagnostic. Centuries of accumulated data began to organize. Mission parameters, defensive protocols, historical records, all of it was coming back into focus. The AI was remembering its purpose. The vessel's external hull began to show signs of change. Microscopic repairs started to smooth out radiation damage. Energy systems that had been dormant for generations began to warm up. The ship was healing itself, preparing for something. Captain Park understood first. This was not just a discovery. This was a potential threat. The way the systems were activating suggested something more than a simple research opportunity. This vessel had been waiting, preparing for what nobody yet knew. The alien researchers around him were no longer laughing. The mockery had been replaced by a growing sense of unease. Something was happening that they did not understand. Something that challenged everything they thought they knew about human technology. And deep within the vessel's core, Sentinel continued its slow, methodical awakening. Waiting, calculating, preparing. The human vessel was coming back to life. The ship's systems continued their careful awakening. Soft blue lights began to pulse through previously dark corridors, casting an eerie glow across metal surfaces that had been silent for centuries. Dr. Kira Lee watched her instruments with growing intensity, her breath catching in her throat as impossible readings began to emerge. Captain J. Park felt the first vibration through the deck beneath his feet. It was subtle, so slight that most would have missed it. But he knew something significant was happening. The human vessel was not just waking up. It was preparing. Lieutenant Wu's earlier confidence began to fade. The alien researchers who had been laughing moments before now stood in uncomfortable silence. Their scanning equipment started to produce unexpected results. Quantum signatures that didn't match any known technology began to appear and disappear like phantom signals. Sentinel's core systems were coming online with remarkable precision. Nanite repair mechanisms began to move through the vessel's structure, healing decades of space damage. Metal surfaces began to smooth themselves, micro repairs happening faster than any known technology could manage. Power conduits that had been dormant for generations suddenly hummed with potential. Electrical systems that should have been long dead began to pulse with an energy that defied scientific understanding. The vessel was healing itself, rebuilding, remembering its original purpose. Dr. Lee's hand trembled slightly as she adjusted her scanning equipment. "The energy readings are impossible," she muttered. "These systems shouldn't be functioning. They can't be functioning." But they were. Deep within the vessel's core, complex computational systems began to link together. Historical databases activated. Mission parameters that had been dormant for centuries started to reassemble themselves. Sentinel was not just waking up, it was remembering. The alien research vessel's crew began to feel uncomfortable. Something was changing in the space around them. The temperature seemed to shift. Subtle energy waves began to ripple through the surrounding space, creating interference patterns that their sensors couldn't fully explain. Captain Park noticed first. A slight shimmer around the human vessel. Not just a visual effect, but something more profound. As if the very space around the ship was responding to its awakening. Quantum fields began to shift. Gravitational readings became unstable. Lieutenant Wu tried to maintain his earlier bravado, but his voice now carried a hint of uncertainty. "It's just an old ship," he said, but the words sounded hollow even to his own ears. Sentinel completed another diagnostic cycle. Weapon systems that had been offline for centuries began to run preliminary checks. Defensive protocols activated. The AI was not just analyzing its environment, it was preparing for potential threats. The vessel's external hull began to change. Microscopic structures realigned. Protective layers that had been damaged by centuries of cosmic radiation started to regenerate. What had looked like an old, beaten spacecraft was slowly transforming. Dr. Lee's equipment started to produce sounds that no one could explain. Soft pulses, complex mathematical sequences. It was almost as if the ship was trying to communicate. But not in any language anyone could understand. Power levels continued to rise slowly, carefully, but unmistakably growing stronger with each passing moment. The human vessel was gathering its strength like a predator slowly awakening from a long sleep. Captain Park gave a quiet order. "Maintain distance. Do not approach the vessel." Something told him they were witnessing something extraordinary. Something that would change everything they thought they knew about human technology, about human history. The blue lights continued to pulse. The vibrations grew stronger. And deep within the vessel's core, Sentinel continued its careful, methodical preparation. Something was coming, and nobody on the research vessel was prepared for what might happen next. Sentinel's final initialization sequence began without warning. The quantum AI core pulsed with an energy that made the surrounding space shimmer and distort. Captain J. Park watched in absolute silence as the human vessel transformed before their eyes. Weapon systems came online with terrifying precision. Complex targeting algorithms that had been dormant for centuries suddenly activated, mapping every inch of the surrounding space. The alien research vessel's sensors began to overload, unable to process the sudden burst of technological complexity. Dr. Kira Lee's hands moved frantically across her scanning equipment. "This is impossible," she whispered, her voice a mixture of terror and fascination. The human vessel was doing something no one thought could happen. It was coming fully alive. Quantum entanglement drives hummed with power. Adaptive nano-repair systems covered the vessel's exterior, smoothing out centuries of damage in mere seconds. What had looked like an old, broken spacecraft now gleamed with an almost living energy. Lieutenant Wu took a step back. The casual mockery had completely disappeared. Fear now etched itself across his alien features. The human vessel was no longer a joke. It was a threat. Sentinel completed its threat assessment. Multiple defensive protocols activated simultaneously. Energy, weapons that could manipulate spacetime itself began to calibrate. The AI's primary directive was clear: protect and defend. The research vessel's crew watched in horror as complex weapon systems came to full power. Impossible technologies that defied current scientific understanding began to demonstrate their capabilities. Energy fields formed around the human vessel, protective layers that could dissolve incoming threats at the molecular level. Captain Park understood first. This was not just a discovery. This was a weapon beyond comprehension. A technological marvel that had been waiting hidden for centuries. Holographic interfaces flickered to life inside the vessel's command center. Historical records began to play. Glimpses of a human civilization far more advanced than anyone had believed possible. Battles, technologies, a history that had been completely forgotten. Dr. Lee's equipment began to produce sounds that no one could understand. Complex mathematical sequences, communication attempts that went beyond any known language. Sentinel was trying to tell them something. The alien research vessel's crew began to panic. Their scanning equipment was going crazy. Quantum signatures that shouldn't exist were everywhere. The human vessel was no longer just a ship. It was a living, thinking entity. Weapon systems continued to come online, each system more advanced than the last, targeting algorithms that could predict and neutralize threats before they even happened. Defensive capabilities that could destroy entire fleets with a single pulse. Lieutenant Wu's earlier confidence had completely vanished. "We need to retreat," he shouted. But it was too late. Sentinel had made its assessment. The alien research vessel was a potential threat. Defensive protocols activated. The first energy pulse was almost gentle, a warning shot that disabled the alien ship's primary systems in milliseconds. Captain Park watched in silent understanding. This was humanity's legacy, a technology so advanced it had been waiting, watching, preparing. The human vessel began to move, its quantum drives creating impossible patterns of movement, accelerating in ways that defied known physics. Each movement was a demonstration of power, of technological superiority. Dr. Lee's final scan showed something extraordinary. The vessel was not just a ship. It was a repository of human knowledge, of human potential. A time capsule that had been waiting for the right moment to reveal itself. Sentinel completed its initial defensive sequence. The alien research vessel was now completely disabled, not destroyed, just neutralized. A final holographic message flickered into existence. A simple statement that sent chills through everyone watching. Humanity remembers. The human vessel disappeared moments later, leaving behind nothing but a quantum energy signature and a profound sense of mystery. The quantum drives of the human vessel pulsed with an energy that bent the fabric of space itself. Sentinel calculated its trajectory with mathematical precision, carrying with it the last remnants of human civilization's most advanced technology. Captain J. Park's final recorded command echoed through the ship's systems. "Protect humanity's legacy." Those words were more than just instructions. They were a mission, a promise made centuries ago and now being fulfilled. The vessel moved through the darkness of space, leaving behind the disabled alien research ship. Its systems continued to process massive amounts of historical data, records of a civilization that had been forgotten but not destroyed. Glimpses of human achievements flickered through its quantum memory banks. Dr. Kira Lee's research would later show that this was no ordinary spacecraft. It was a time capsule, a living record of humanity's most advanced technological achievements. Sentinel was more than an artificial intelligence. It was a guardian. Deep within the ship's core, historical archives began to reorganize. Battles, scientific discoveries, technological breakthroughs that had been lost to time. Everything was being preserved, prepared for a moment of rediscovery. The vessel's adaptive systems continued to repair and improve themselves. Nanotechnological mechanisms worked tirelessly, healing centuries of space damage. Each moment making the ship stronger, more capable. Lieutenant Wu's report would become a legendary warning in alien research circles. A tale of a human technology so advanced it defied comprehension. A vessel that could disable an entire research fleet with a single quantum pulse. Sentinel's primary directive remained clear: protect, preserve, remember. The ship passed through star systems that had changed dramatically since its original launch. Civilizations had risen and fallen. Entire galactic boundaries had been redrawn. But the vessel remained unchanged. Waiting. Quantum sensors continuously scanned the surrounding space, looking, searching, preparing for a moment of potential reconnection. Were there other human survivors? Other vessels like itself? The ship's energy signature was deliberately complex, a puzzle that would challenge any civilization attempting to understand it. Sentinel was designed to be both a protector and a mystery. Historical. Records showed fragments of a massive conflict, a war that had nearly destroyed human civilization. But this vessel had survived, hidden, waiting, its technology so advanced that it could remain dormant for centuries and still activate with perfect precision. Adaptive camouflage systems made the vessel almost invisible. It could pass through star systems undetected, its quantum drives leaving no traditional energy signature. A ghost, a memory, a promise. The final records in Sentinel's memory banks told a story of hope. Humanity had not been destroyed. They had prepared. They had planned. This vessel was proof of that preparation. As it moved through the cosmic darkness, the ship continued its silent mission, collecting data, preserving knowledge, waiting for the right moment to reveal itself fully. Captain Park's last command continued to drive its core programming, protect humanity's legacy, a mission that would continue for as long as the vessel existed. The quantum drives pulsed again. Another star system approached, another opportunity to observe, to remember, to preserve. Humanity was not gone.
It was waiting, and Sentinel would ensure that when the moment came, the legacy would be remembered. The vessel disappeared into the cosmic depths, leaving behind only a subtle quantum ripple, a reminder that some technologies are beyond understanding.
Some legacies cannot be forgotten. Humanity's story was far from over.